This is Erick Garcia with International Air Tools. Today we have a customer sent in a 75 Series Nutrunner in for repair. His concern was that the tool was not running. So we'll pull the trigger, you see the tool was stalling. Automatic first issue we think here is we think something's wrong either with the gearbox or the air motor. We'll do a quick little test. We're gonna break down the tool for you guys and show you guys how we break it down and what do we look for. First thing we do, we'll take the air off the tool and we'll start disassembling the tool. First thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take off the collar here in the front, the right angle part gearbox. We're gonna check that, make sure we have movement on this part right here in the front. So the first thing we'll remove this collar. The complaint on this one was that the tool was not turning, so we suspect something with the air motor since the tool is not rotating. So we'll take this collar off first. So that removes the top part of the tool. Next, also we did put this on the vise, clamped this down, and we turned on this guy to break it loose. So we already broke it loose. So now we're gonna take this off, just your standard regular lefty loosey. And we'll put this guy here. Next, what we'll take off is the air motor that's inside here. Normally you could just pull this off, putting this on the vise here, clamping this down. You should be able to get some vice grips, hold on to the air motor. And pull straight up. If you have a little bit of, the motor doesn't want to come off, you could just heat up the top of the housing slightly. Just a couple seconds, and that should help you remove the motor out. So now if you see in here, we have the right angle part of the Nutrunner. We have the gearing, all right, and we have the air motor. Next, we're gonna go into taking apart the head here, which is the gearbox. Things that we're looking for once we take this apart, we wanna make sure this is spinning. If this is spinning, we have a good indication nothing's stuck on this part of the tool. So we could say, hey, there's probably most likely nothing gonna be wrong with this part of the tool. But we'll still take it apart, take a look at it, see if there's anything we could inspect on that tool that could be wrong. How we take this guy apart, same thing, we'll put this guy on the vise, clamp this guy on here, we'll turn this guy to take it off. So just kind of I'll illustrate here. This is opposite, see, off. So. We'll clamp that part there, and we'll go ahead and turn it, take it off. One thing I forgot to mention, these guys do come off, so you can just pull these guys off. Normal things that we repair on this guy would be this bearing that's in here, where we place this bearing. Just on a normal service where we place the bearing on here. We'll look for this, just in case there's anything on here. So we'll clean this guy up. Look for any wear marks, any broken teeth. Okay. On the back side here, there's another bearing here. We can remove that also. On this guy, we actually use, if you guys have a 1 1/8 nut laying around your shop, you guys could use that to remove this instead of using the special tool. If needed to, we could also provide you guys the tool that is meant for this, but this also does work. So now we're taking this off, put it here, and we should be able to pull this guy straight up. So it should come right on out the bearing. That's what we're looking for. So that's the right angle part of the tool. Now we'll go on to the gearbox. The gearbox, we're looking for the same thing, any kind of broken teeth in there. We want to make sure this is spinning freely. There's no binding anywhere on the gearbox. This is what we're looking for. Put it upside down, take the gearbox apart. We'll inspect each of the gears, each of the assemblies. Next, move on to the air motor. If you see the air motor here, you can see some space in between the two plates, which indicates that there's probably air that was slipping by, and that's probably why the tool was not running. So this had to be pressed in more in order to take it off. But we'll show you guys how to take this air motor apart. Recommend having some soft jaws. Something like this. All right, we'll put this guy on here. This is a 14 millimeter. Remove. Now the air motor will come apart. And this guy, using a brass hammer, slightly tap on it, it comes off. We're looking for here, we're looking the wear on the vanes, making sure these guys are coming out. So normally on a repair, we will replace these vanes, clean them up, clean the air motor, and check it. What we're looking for here on the air motor, we're looking for wear on the top of the air motor, on the rotor, and also the other side as well. On the end plates, we're looking for wear on the end plate. So if this is worn out, you see some slight wear. This we might be able to shave down and get it to work fine, but there's a little bit of wear on the sides. On this one as well. See, you can see a little more intensive wear. This end plate would actually might need to be replaced. The reason for that is when this is inside here, if it's not perfectly straight, it's kind of bent to the side, you start losing power in the tool. The tool will starting to stall on you guys. And the reason why this happens is when you don't do a preventive maintenance on it, which is replacing these bearings. Once these bearings start to fail, then you start getting a wobble in the air motor, and that's when you start getting that wear. From here, we would quote the customer a new maintenance kit, which is going to be replacing the bearings. We're going to be cleaning all the gears in here and in here, and quote the customer rebuild kit of the motor bearings, and that should be it on this tool. All right, guys. Now we're gonna put the tool back together. Show us how the tool goes back together. We'll start with the air motor. First things, we're gonna put this back on this guy on here. We'll put the bearing back in here in this place, and we have the nut here. So we'll put this guy on the vise. Also using the soft jaws. You don't want to damage the rotor. We have a 14 millimeter wrench. We'll start turning it, and it's going to bring down the bearing. It should only be hand tight, not real tight, just hand tight. Like that. That means that is too tight. Still too tight. You can loosen it up just a hair. We want to have free spin here. Little mallet, we'll tap it down. Still too tight. That's where you want. Free spin. I'll put it back on here. Just to hold it. And now we'll put the vanes inside, so it is one direction. So you guys see like this, flat goes towards the outside of the motor. This does have direction. You have a guide here. So this will line up to this hole right here. So it goes like this, lines up, and this guy goes on top, just like that. This bearing does need to get pressed in. All right, to press this bearing down in, we want to make sure it's in all the way flush. Use a 10mm socket, and you just tap it all the way down. Just like that. I'm gonna put back the gearbox. Gearbox, same way it came out. We'll add some grease onto this gearbox. Always look at you guys' manual, what grease they recommend. Depending on different model tools, might be different grease. Always refer to your manual for that. Things we also grease in here, we'll put some grease in here on the actual pins. Just make sure you put these back in the same spot. So take one off at a time. So here, we'll add some grease to the top, and we'll also grease the inside of this, which we already did. Put this guy back on, make sure it's flush. That guy's done. Next, we'll clean this guy out. Make sure it's nice and clean. And we'll also add grease on here. We'll add some grease onto here. Put this guy on here. We'll put this back on the vise. Actually, I'll put this guy on first. Easiest way I've seen do this is putting this on the vise first and then turning this on. And this is reverse, so left is going to go back on. Put the bearing back on top. So you could probably just tap it a little bit. No, it'll fall right in. We'll put this retainer back on. This just holds this bearing in place. This is something from coming out. Same thing, we'll use our nut here, 1 1/8 nut. And we're tying this guy up. This is tight, we got good movement here. This is done. All right, so now we're gonna put the tool back together. Inside here, there is a spacer that goes in here which hooks up to the motor here itself. I'll just make sure that is in and seated all the way down. So that needs to be pushed in and seated all the way down. The way I normally do that is just, I'll get the end, get a screwdriver, the back of the screwdriver, and I'll just make sure it's pressed in. Next, we're gonna drop the air motor in. The air motor does have a guide pin on here. So if you look at the housing, there's a cutout. Can you see that? For this part to go slide into. You may have to heat up the housing to get this in. You may not. A good rule of thumb to line up that pin is you can put a mark where the pin needs to go. And now we'll drop it in. We'll drop it in to match it. That's in. Do not forget your spacer that goes in between here. This holds the air motor down. Next, we'll put the gearbox in. Just like this. So you got to play with it because you have the splines have to line up with it, but you shouldn't have to force it. This part here we do want it to be tight, so this is compressing the air motor. We don't want no leaks coming out of the air motor. A good way to do this: flip this tool upside down, put it on the vise, like so, and then you grab your wrench. I have a wrench here. And give it a nice tug on there. Flip this guy upside down. I'm gonna put this wherever best fits for your needs. So you want it there, you want the trigger up top. So forgot to put this guy in. That. We'll put our retainers in. One on each side. And we're tying this guy up. This guy doesn't need to be that tight because this is meant to be removed, take off to adjust the head where you want it to go. But you could just have it, give it a little tug. Just give it a little tug here. Should work. And that's how you put a tool back together. That's a 75 Series Nutrunner. Alright guys, here we're going to show you guys how to remove the muffler part of it. It's kind of one of the last things we always do when we do the service. There's an O-ring that goes here on the top, which keeps we'll move this O-ring out of the way. We'll get a screwdriver here, and we'll try to pry this open like so. Just turn it. Just to get this guy out of the way, we pull this guy down, and we'll replace this filter. See, it's pretty dirty, nasty. We'll also replace these two O-rings. They're here. So normally it takes 4 O-rings. This one's missing 2 O-rings. All right, guys, we don't have a new filter right now, but say this was a new filter. We'll put this guy on here. We'll pull this collar back up over the top. Like so. We'll bring this guy in. First, just go in with your hands. You tap it with the little hammer, brass hammer. Through in. Normally there would be an O-ring we would put there as well. And then we would put an O-ring back up top also. Down, O-ring would go there. Like that. And then normally we'll put an O-ring here. So now we have this O-ring. This O-ring will go right in that slot. And that's it.